Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Sarah Johnson had never believed life could be so cruel. In this rundown neighborhood of New Orleans, every day was a struggle for survival. Her twins, Ethan and Emily, were only a few months old, and she felt unable to provide them with even a safe place to live. The bills piled up, hunger gnawed at their small, squalid apartment, and the distress became unbearable. That's when a wealthy and influential woman, Margaret Holloway, entered her life. One meeting, one conversation, and Sarah made the most heartbreaking decision of her life: to sell her children. The word "sell" burned on her lips, but in her mind, it was the only way to give them a better life. She signed the papers, handed the twins over to Margaret, and let them go, her heart breaking. The years passed, but the emptiness remained. Every sound of a child in the street, every laugh in the park, reminded her of what she had lost. The nights were the worst. She imagined Ethan and Emily growing up in a world that was forever closed to her, rich, happy, but without her. 20 years later, poverty persisted, but now Sarah had one goal: to find her children. A strange intuition drove her, a premonition she couldn't ignore. When she finally found their trail, Margaret Holloway's immense and luxurious house stood like a wall between her and her past. But what she discovered surpassed anything she could have imagined. Ethan and Emily hadn't just grown up, they carried an incredible secret, a mystery linked to their birth, to their very identities, a secret Margaret had kept hidden since day one. The unthinkable truth would shatter their lives and reveal that decisions made in pain can have unimaginable consequences. Sarah's heart was pounding. She knew that what she was about to discover would not only be a confrontation with the past, but the beginning of a denouement that would change everything, forever. Sarah Johnson stood before Margaret Holloway's imposing villa, unable to tear her gaze away from the solid wooden door. Her heart was pounding so hard she almost feared it would burst from her chest. 20 years had passed since she had entrusted Ethan and Emily to this wealthy woman, and now, finding them again seemed both impossible and inevitable. She took a deep breath and knocked on the door. A few seconds later, an elegant butler invited her in. The air conditioning, the sparkling chandeliers, the scent of opulence, everything cruelly reminded her of what she had never had for her children. Then, at last, she saw them. Ethan, now a tall young man with deep blue eyes, and Emily, beautiful and confident, smiling, unaware of the approaching storm. Sarah felt tears welling up in her eyes. "My children, it's really them," she whispered. But before she could move forward, Margaret Holloway appeared, majestic and icy. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice sharp as a scalpel. Sarah felt the weight of 20 years of guilt pressed down on her shoulders. I am Sarah, the mother of these children," she said, her voice trembling. Ethan and Emily exchanged a surprised look. How could they have a mother they had never known? Sarah stepped forward, her eyes filled with tears. "I never stopped thinking about you. I'm sorry. I wanted to protect you." Margaret burst into a cold laugh. "Protect? You call that protecting? You've abandoned your children." But before the tension could reach its peak, Emily spoke, her voice trembling but firm. "Mom. You're really our mother?" Ethan looked at her in disbelief. The word seemed unreal, like an impossible dream. Sarah felt her heart break and swell at the same time. She wanted to run to them, hug them tightly, erase 20 years of distance and pain. But a part of her knew it wasn't that simple. The buried secrets, the lies, and above all, the unthinkable truth that Margaret had hidden from them, it was all about to come crashing down. And what she discovered in her children's eyes, a spark of recognition mixed with fear and confusion, only amplified her feeling. Their lives were about to change drastically, and nothing would ever be the same again. After the intense emotion of their first meeting, Sarah was led into the sumptuous drawing room by Margaret Holloway. Ethan and Emily followed her, hesitant, their eyes filled with questions. Sarah sensed their confusion and mistrust, but also that fragile glimmer of hope that urged her to continue. Margaret settled into a leather armchair, crossing her legs with calculated coldness. You want answers? Very well, but are you ready for the truth? She asked, her voice icy. Sarah felt her blood run cold. She had imagined this moment 1,000 times, but hearing those words aloud was a whole other level. Ethan frowned. What truth? What did you do to her? Margaret stared at Emily, then Ethan, and a cruel smile spread across her face. You are not simply my adopted children. You are the direct heirs of the Holloway family. You were conceived for a very specific reason. Sarah's heart leaped. What did this mean? She felt her legs buckle, and she sat down beside her children, holding them almost instinctively. What are you talking about? She whispered, her voice trembling. Margaret slowly rose and walked around them. Your biological parents had a secret that none of you knew. Sarah, you sold it to me for money, but what you didn't know is that your children possess a rare gift, a gift that only our family has. And I had to make sure they grew up in the right environment, far away from you. Ethan and Emily stared at each other, eyes wide. A gift? Emily asked, her voice catching in her throat. Sarah felt a shiver run down her spine. She didn't understand everything, but she sensed that the truth would change their lives forever. Margaret smiled, but it was not a maternal smile. You are special. Your lives, your choices, everything you do, has been influenced by this gift. And now that you are adults, it is time for you to accept it, and to choose your own destiny. Sarah felt her heart sink. She had believed that all this time, her children were simply happy and safe. But now she understood that they had been manipulated, groomed for a fate she had never imagined. Ethan, his voice trembling but determined, stood up. So you've been hiding our true identities from us, all this time. Emily squeezed Sarah's hand, as if clinging to something real. Mom, what should we do? Sarah, tears welling in her eyes, felt a new strength growing within her. We will face this, together. No matter what this secret entails, we are a family, and no one will be able to separate us again. But deep down, they all knew that what followed would be far more dangerous and devastating than anything they had imagined. Margaret Holloway's unthinkable secret was only the beginning. The next day, Sarah couldn't sleep. Margaret Holloway's revelations swirled in her head like a whirlwind. Her children, Ethan and Emily, were special, and their entire lives had been orchestrated by this woman she had once faced with both hope and despair. But instead of relief, she felt a dull anger, mixed with guilt. Sarah decided to confront Margaret once again. She entered the wealthy woman's office, her fists clenched, ready for anything. Why have you never told me the truth? Why manipulate them like this? She asked, her voice trembling but firm. Margaret, seated behind her immense mahogany desk, shrugged. Because you would have ruined everything. Your children needed me, not you. You made your choice, Sarah. And now, you have to live with it. These words struck Sarah like a thunderbolt. She had believed that her love, despite everything, would be enough. But Margaret brutally showed her that the world in which her children lived had nothing to do with the world she had known. Meanwhile, Ethan and Emily, still in shock, found themselves alone in the garden. All this time, we were never simply ourselves, Emily whispered. Ethan clenched his fists, rage and confusion mingling with fear. They stole our childhood, and Mom was never far away, but she couldn't do anything. Sarah reached them, tears in her eyes. I never stopped loving you, even when I made the worst choice of my life. I only wanted you to be safe. But I don't want to be absent from your life anymore. I want to fight with you, for everything you truly are. Ethan turned his gaze towards her, a mixture of anger and a desire for truth in his eyes. Mom, if what Margaret says is true, then everything we thought we knew about ourselves is false. We have to discover the truth, together. At that moment, a strange document caught Emily's eye, lying on a nearby table. It bore the official seals of the Holloway family. Upon opening it, she discovered birth certificates, other documents, and confidential notes revealing that the Holloway family's genetics and destiny had been carefully manipulated so that the twins would inherit a special power, a secret capable of changing the course of their lives. Sarah felt a shiver run through her. She had thought that selling her children was a matter of survival, but now she understood that this choice had plunged them into a labyrinth of secrets and dangers she had never imagined. "We need to be careful," Sarah murmured, sensing the gravity of the situation. "Because whoever controls this secret will stop at nothing to protect it, and we're now at the center of it all." Sarah's past, the decisions she had made under pressure and in poverty, came back to haunt her with an intensity she could never have imagined. And at the same time, the future of her children and their secret hung by a thread. An unpredictable and dangerous emotional storm was beginning to form. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions for Sarah and her children. Each encounter with Margaret Holloway revealed a new facet of the mystery surrounding Ethan and Emily. But what they finally discovered surpassed anything they could have imagined. One evening, while they were secretly exploring Margaret's office, Ethan stumbled upon an old trunk hidden behind a bookcase. Emily, her hands trembling, helped open it. Inside were letters, official documents, and a small black leather notebook. Sarah took the notebook and read aloud, "Ethan and Emily, you are the heirs to an exceptional genetic gift, an ability to perceive and influence the emotions of others. Your birth was no accident. Margaret and her ancestors ensured that this gift was preserved, and now, you are the key to their power." Emily recoiled in shock. "You mean, that everything we felt, everything we thought, was observed and guided?" Sarah felt her legs buckle. "This is far beyond what I imagined, and that's why I sold my children, to protect them from this dangerous world. But I had no idea how complex and risky it would be." At that moment, the door slammed shut behind them. Margaret, her face hard and impassive, appeared with two men in suits, clearly sent to watch over the children. "You should never have touched that," she said in an icy voice. Ethan stood protectively in front of his sister and mother. "We will not let anyone decide our lives for us." Margaret gave a cruel smile. "That's exactly what I feared. You're ready now, but are you ready to assume your legacy? The world will not be forgiving, and some are willing to do anything to control that power." Sarah felt a visceral fear rising within her. She had thought her worst choice was to sell her children, but now she understood that the real danger came from those who wanted to exploit their secret. That night, they made a decision: together, they would face the truth and the threats that came with it. Margaret may have wanted to control their destiny, but the family they now formed would be their strength. As the moon rose over the villa, illuminating the resolute faces of Sarah, Ethan, and Emily, a strange feeling took hold. Fear was there, but determination was stronger. The shackles of the past had been revealed, and now, they were ready to fight for their freedom and their future. But in the shadows, Margaret watched, ready to do anything to protect her secret, and the real danger, the one that could destroy everything, was only just about to manifest itself. The tension in the Holloway villa was palpable. Sarah, Ethan, and Emily knew that their every move could be watched, every decision scrutinized. But the moment of truth had arrived. They had to confront Margaret, uncover the whole secret, and decide their future. In the large living room, the three stood facing her. Ethan, his gaze determined, spoke, "Margaret, we have discovered your secret, and we will never be your puppets again." Margaret, cold and impassive, gave a faint smile. "Do you really think you can escape what you are? This power, this gift, belongs to you, but it's still beyond your grasp. You're not ready." Emily felt a burning anger rising within her. "Perhaps, but we have the right to choose our own lives. Your manipulations end here." At that moment, the notebook Sarah had found began to glow faintly, as if a mysterious force recognized the children's will. Ethan and Emily exchanged a glance. The gift Margaret had spoken of was not only real, it now responded to their will. Sarah felt a strange energy surrounding her. For the first time, she understood that power wasn't a curse, but a responsibility. "We will use this gift to protect our family and our freedom." Margaret stepped back, visibly disturbed. "Impossible, you're not supposed to control that." she murmured. As she moved forward to stop them, a flash of light erupted from Ethan and Emily's hands. Margaret was thrown back, stunned. Sarah, supporting her children, felt a new strength, as if all the years of suffering and guilt were transforming into a protective power. "You made us who we are," Ethan said firmly. "But we choose our own destiny, not you." Humiliated and powerless, Margaret knew she had lost control. The secret she had kept for 20 years was now in the hands of those she had tried to manipulate. In the days that followed, Sarah, Ethan, and Emily rebuilt their lives together. The past remained a heavy burden, but now they possessed the truth and the power to choose. Their bond, forged in pain and regret, was stronger than ever. And as the moon rose over the Holloway villa, Sarah finally understood, the worst decision of her life, selling her children, had opened the door to an unthinkable truth. But thanks to love, courage, and determination, they had transformed this tragedy into a force capable of changing their destiny, forever.